All right, hi everybody, and welcome to our third part of the WCC West College Draft. We are tuning in for the last 20 picks of the draft. For context, we are going to kind of get through these 20 picks relatively quickly, just so we have more time to talk about the actual teams at the end. So if you are one of the people picked on this, and we only say a few sentences about you, please don't take offense to it, just because we want to talk about the teams more. I'm joined again today by four lovely analysts, if they want to introduce yourselves.
Danica Little. I've been the captain and the coach in Utah for a long time. I just graduated and I've been playing 5 years.
I'm Brooke Urin. I have been playing for ASU most recently for Sun Devil Quidditch before that. I like to do tournament directing. I've acted as coach on SDQ and my pronouns are they, them.
I'm Rachel Ramirez. I've been playing on Anteater Quidditch at UCI for 4 years.
I'm Erin. I've played before for 7 years.
And if you somehow don't know me, my name is Lindsey. I'm one of the captains of the Lost Boys, and I've been playing for I think this would have been my 8th season. So we are going to hop into this. I am currently at my family home, and I only have one device as opposed to two, so things might get a little messy because we're doing multiple jobs here today. So if we mess anything up, hopefully I'll be able to edit it out, and if I can't, then I can't. So we've got our screen going, and I'm kind of, okay, first pick goes to blue, and we have Nathaniel Delirio. Rachel, what do you think of this pick?
I'm not shocked that Nathaniel got picked right away because I believe he wasn't officially in the pool to pick from, right? Yeah, so I'm not surprised that he immediately went once he got put in there. Nathaniel only played one game this last season, so there isn't too much to look at, but if you look at his past seasons as well and how he played in his one tournament, he is a very physical player, so it's adding more mass to blue team again because they already have Cameron in there and a couple other people too, but this adds another physical ball carrier that they have on their team, so to give Cameron a break from ball carrying. But yeah, he has a couple years of experience on him, and it's a good pick to go with once he got put back in there to be picked.
Yeah, I think everyone forgot about Nathaniel because he was active last year, but then didn't play this year at all, other than that first thing. So I think everyone kind of forgot. And then there was a post in the West region, and then everyone remembered Nathaniel. And as soon as everyone remembered Nathaniel, he went first. So that's no surprise there. I think he could have, if people remembered him, I would have expected him to go in the top 6 rounds, maybe top 4, honestly. So not really a huge surprise to see him go as soon as everyone in the world remembered that he existed. So awesome. Anyone else have thoughts on the Nathaniel pick? Okay. Next pick, we're going to purple, and we've got Blake Rodman from Utah State. Danica, what do you think of this pick?
Super stoked to finally see B-Rod on here. He deserves it. Blake is a great driver. He's a good ball carrier option if either of their keepers needs a break. He's also just great for a passing option. I know that with Utah State, they like to play 2 up top and kind of 2 down low and play like a square, and he's just a great option to have to dump to, and he can just finish the play. Blake is short. Well, we all know that Blake is pretty short, so he gets caught up a little bit, but he just keeps driving. Even if he's wrapped up by 3 people, he'll keep going until he gets to the hoops. So I think that he's a really good chaser option for the team.
Yeah, I was very stoked to see Blake come up on the board. He's very talented, he's a lot to get through and is a lot to try to take down. So I think he adds a lot of mass to a team that had some skinny boys. He had a lot of brute strength, so I'm excited about it. Anyone else have thoughts on the Blake pick? Awesome. Fantastic. Okay, next we're going to red for a pick that we have talked about before and are excited to see. We've got Carrie Anderson. This is an NAU pick, but Danica's also spoken about Carrie. So either Danica or Brooke, if you want to speak to the Carrie, let's talk about it.
I'll just start it off. Carrie, she's great. She has great hands, great positioning. She's not scared to take a hit. She bounces right back up. She's also a decent utility because NAU's gone through a couple of growing years. She's had to step up into the beater. I've seen her keep a couple of times. She's not afraid to just try something new, and I think that's good for this team. Like, she's adaptable, and she's she'll be able to step up into whatever they need her to do. And we've talked endlessly about Luke being a passer. She is a great option to work with him. So I'm excited for that. She is a bit smaller, so she does tackle easily. But like I said, she just bounces right back up.
Yeah, and just speaking to Carrie's utility, I think I've even seen her speak this past year.
Yep.
So that's a good pick for a fantasy team for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited for Red. Carrie was one of the few people, not few, that's not true, but one of the people who really stepped up. She played during Glorious Bitches Galore, and I was like, I know who Carrie Anderson is, but then I saw her play there, and I was like, dang, Carrie Anderson can play Quidditch. So that's a really smart pick for Wed. We talked about it when Sophie was picked, and we were like surprised to not see someone like Carrie here over Sophie, but I think having both of them is a good combination. So yeah, I'm excited about that one. And then we are jumping to Gray, or they're locking in their next beater with Ben Sebastian from UCLA. Ben Sebastian's super smart. He plays, he's fast. He was like essentially the third string behind Phillip and Justin for UCLA. He's going to be quick. I think, I'm not sure exactly how Gray team wants to manage their beaters exactly, but I think it's a smart pick because I think Ben can pair really well with Harry or Drew or complete a mixed set. I was surprised to see another UCLA beater go just because they aren't really known for their beater depth, but especially just because they have Justin, who doesn't really need a lot of subs. But I think it's a smart pick for Gray to round out that team with someone as athletic as Ben is. So happy to see that. Anyone else have thoughts on the Ben pick? All right. Next on the board, we're going to Teal with our first primary seeker position with Tanner Webb from ASU. Brooke, what do you think of the Tanner pick?
Yeah, I'm excited about this pick. Obviously, I talked about him in the last episode. I was talking about him in USQ West, so I'm not really surprised he got picked up. A phenomenal speaker.
Awesome.
Well, the only thing I think when he speaks is he can go a little low, which makes it a little easier for him to get pushed down. But besides that, he's great. He's caught 6 times at regionals this past year. Guy's absolutely ridiculous. And in addition to that, he is a great chaser. He's super athletic, super fast. He's definitely pretty small, but he does his best to make up for that with just how fast he is.
Awesome. Okay. I'm just happy to see more Arizona names come up on these later.
You and me both.
Yeah, we had to talk about it. We're like, wow, they're a little low at the beginning. Okay, swinging back to Teal, we've got another female chaser with Sammy Wang. I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Sammy is a UCLA rookie. She's super tall, super fast. She's like the epitome flawless, like wing hoops chaser. I've seen her play a few times. I think that she's going to be a star when she just gets more experience and plays with more people. So I really like this pick. I definitely think like we're going to see more rookies come out this round just because people don't know them as well. So yeah, I think Teal's making a smart pick with the Sammy one. I think that she'll play well with the people already on Teal. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Sammy. I think it's also very fitting to be a 10th rounder just because she's just starting to make a name for herself. And if she had gone earlier, I would have been a little surprised, especially with all the talent that we do have. Okay. Anyone else have thoughts on the Sammy pick? Cool. Blowing right through this as planned. Fantastic. Okay, going back to Gray, and it's a pick that I brought up the first day of all of this. We have our Rachel Ramirez. Erin, what do you think of this pick?
I think this is the perfect pick, especially for Gray teams. Like, Rachel obviously has a lot of chemistry, a lot of experience playing with Daniel and Tony, and they're going to trust her. Like, I think maybe it's a hot take, I don't know. I think this team is set up better to utilize Rachel than I think Anteaters has been the past year. And so I think she's going to get a lot more, she would get a lot more action from this team. I think that she would have a lot more support. from her ball carriers and stuff like that. You've got Dana also in this line who's not afraid to ball carry. We know Rachel has some experience ball carrying, so there's a lot of like flexibility with great teams like chasing line at this point.
Yeah, I am surprised that Rachel went this late. I brought this up literally the first day. I was like, I want to see Rachel up on this board. The West is certainly full of a lot of talented female chasers. Like we have no female beaters and a ton of female chasers. So there is just a ton of talent in this category, but Gray got a steal with Rachel. Like truly, I cannot believe she dropped to the 10th round. I also think that I said this before when Rachel wasn't here, that I think that Rachel and I have like a similar play style. So if Rachel has flaws, I pretend that they're not flaws because I have the same flaws and I want to ignore that they don't exist. But I'm a huge Rachel fan. Rachel knows this. I've spoken about it a few times. So I'm really excited for Gray to get this pick. And I think that she's going to work really, really well with this team. Rachel, do you have thoughts on your own pick?
Like I'm really flattered that you said like you think I should have gone sooner. I would say if anything, the reason why I didn't go sooner is because this definitely wasn't my strongest season. So like if these people were focusing like on performance at regionals was not my strongest performance. So like I can see why I would come in like 10th for that. But putting me in with Tony and Daniel's definitely putting me in with ball carriers that I already have chemistry with. And then putting me in a lineup with Dana too, I think gives you two really strong female non-binary players to work with that can, you know, be wing chasers for you, or if they end up at top, they know what to do and they have the confidence where you don't have to worry about resetting or anything like that. So it gives the team flexibility, like you said, in that way too.
Awesome. Okay. Following the trend of UCI female chasers, we have Brittany Masinke. Either of you can correct me. I don't know how to say that. I want to hear from both Rachel and Erin on this because I know you both will have thoughts because she's come up before. So.
Yeah, we've talked about Brittany before and how we were hoping she would come in sooner. I'm glad that she definitely did come in. I think the reason we didn't see her sooner was because she is a rookie player. And I think we've talked about this before too, that like she didn't get to fully show her potential this season on AQ. She definitely has like a lot of that natural instinct, a lot of that athleticism, really good hands, stuff like that, figured out positioning really fast on AQ. So she's definitely a player that like once she gets more experience is going to be phenomenal. So I'm really glad to see her in here. I'm trying to see also who she's playing with. I don't know too much about the other chasers on this team, so I don't know how well she'd work with them, but she's definitely a good pick to put on the board.
Yeah, Brittany's just like a really strong pick overall. A very, very value pick for the 10th round, but like Rachel said, and like we've talked about before, there's not really a ton of reason to know her unless you went out of your way to learn what her name was this season, because this was her first and only year playing so far. But yeah, I think, sorry, Brittany or anybody who's listening, if this is wrong, but I know she came in with like a really strong sports background, I think like soccer and stuff like that. So yeah, I was pretty impressed at how like quickly she picked up the positioning, especially, you know, she took that wing position and just kind of like ran with it. She was really good at getting her hands on the balls, like any passes that she was getting. If there were dropped quaffles, I know people have made this point about Brittany before, like she throws her body to like the mercy of her opponents. I don't know how many times I've seen that girl come away with injuries from playing, but yeah, overall, like this is just like a really, really strong pick. And I think that there were probably at least like some people who were hoping that they could pick her up later, and Red Team was smart enough to pick her up sooner rather than later in this draft round.
I think Red is the team listening to us the most, because their first two picks of this were Carrie and Brittany, who has both been mentioned a few times in these drafts. So shout out to Red for listening to BAC. Okay. Anyone else have thoughts on the Brittany pick? Okay. Strolling right along. We have, adding to a purple team, Amelia Morgan from Utah State. Danica, what do you think of this one?
So Amelia is Utah State's tallest female chaser. She adds a lot of size. Her best strength is defense. So we think of Utah State, we think of those female chasers who are quick next to the hoops, quick hands, dunk it. Amelia is not that. So Amelia uses her height and her arms to her advantage on defense, and she goes in for a lot of wraps. She's very aggressive. Sometimes she's aggressive to a fault, where she'll get so caught up in keeping up with someone that she forgets to play offense. But she has offensively, she's had to keep before, so she's another utility on this team. Like I've said before, this team's just a lot of utilities. She's another one. She can keep and she can chase. She doesn't have as great of field awareness and positioning as other Utah State chasers, but she does still know how to finish, and she's got a good shot. She's not as much of a dunker as the rest of the team. She's more of a shooter, and I think that's something that's a little diverse and could be good for this team. The only thing is that she gets a little bit flustered if she's put up top with the keeper. She does a lot better as a wing position, so putting her in a wing position where she can like have that chance to make that shot is good, but she is great defensively, so I think she's a decent pick, especially at this time.
I like her as an addition with the Blake and Kellen chemistry we're kind of building on here. I am surprised that Amelia went before or instead of Taylor, who we've talked about before, but this just may be the curse of the Utah State blondes and really the more like just not always knowing exactly who's who. But Amelia is certainly a strong player. I'm not shocked to see her on the board at all, but I think just if you're looking for players who are more like balanced offensive and defensively, I think Taylor would have been maybe a stronger pick, just because I think she has a little more talent on both ends of the thing. But if you want someone to lock down some defense, Amelia is certainly stronger than Taylor on that side of the thing. So awesome, cool. Okay, next for blue, we've got Corey DiRenzo, I think that's how you say it, from ASU. Brooke, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, Corey DiRenzo. This is another good pick. Corey, similarly to Tanner, is just super athletic. So I wouldn't say Corey is as developed of a seeker as Tanner, but Corey is a great chaser, especially on offense. He is someone who, if we get the ball to him, you know, his point A to point B, getting to the hoop, he's going to get it to the hoop. He's super fast. He's really good at just dipping and dodging around people. He's someone I hate playing point against his practice just because he is super fast. As far as defense goes, maybe not as developed, but offensively, we really love to use him. And I see I'll try not to speak to it too much now so we can discuss it later, but I see some other players on blue team who I think he could play really well with.
Awesome. Anyone else have thoughts on the Corey pick? Neat. Okay. Next for blue, for the snake around, we have Lee Nguyen from UCI. Rachel, what do you think of the Lee pick?
I'm really glad to see Lee on here. He's gotten the chance to develop his skills a lot more on AQ this past season. He's gotten more experience with ball carrying and keeping and some other positions that he was able to grow into. I think he'll work really well with Cameron and Nathaniel, and there's a couple other chases on here that I think he will build up a good chemistry with. And he's another player that has some mass to him. So they added Nathaniel a couple picks ago, and then they're adding Lee, and they're adding a handful of people that can take a hit and can give a hit too. So they're adding that proponent to their team.
Awesome. Erin, do you have additional thoughts on the Lee pick?
I love Lee. I think he's a great pick for this team or just in general. I think Lee is one of the, I only have, extensive experience with UCI's male chasers and stuff like that. But Lee has always been a very adaptable player as well, which I think is super important because I think that in practices and things like that, he's always very able and ready and willing to take the kind of feedback that we're giving him and implement it on the next play and stuff like that. And I think playing with, like Rachel said, Nathaniel and getting to play with Cameron, if they're giving him feedback as he's playing, he's going to take that and use it literally in the same game. So it's really only going to up their game. He's also I think his lead is kind of like deceptively strong, but I think that's just because he's like really quiet and really nice. So it's like in my head, I'm like, oh, he wouldn't hit me. But like if he does hit you, like you're probably gonna go down. So yeah, he's another one of those just like really like strong, solid like chasers that's gonna be good to have on like defense and offense.
Awesome. Fantastic. All right, going to purple, really fulfilling this keeper prophecy that Aaron had talked about previously. We have Will Bray, who also I think can play chaser, and I've seen some photos of him beating. But anyway, Brooke, what do you think of the Will pick?
Yeah, so I know you share the sentiment. I am so surprised that he didn't go earlier, you know. Well, I don't know if he's like a first or second or third round pick, but he definitely should not have gone this late. Definitely a steal. This past season, Will has actually primarily played as a wing chaser. He really hasn't been keeping much. We have Corey and another first year, or his second year last year, who was primarily keeping. But Will is a great pick because he can drive. He is huge. He is 6'4" and like 240 pounds. You don't want to be in his way. He's extremely aggressive. Definitely gets some tunnel vision. He can only see the hoops. I've seen him take down all 3 hoops in one play just because he was trying to get it in and people were trying to take him down. Like I said, can be very aggressive, can get very angry, doesn't love that there are people resting games, I would say. But he has the experience, he has the size and the strength. So I definitely think, especially at the 11th round, that this is a steal.
Yeah.
And he has been beating this past season, which is equally terrifying.
Yeah, I am personally a Will fan. I've seen him play a few times, and I've been happy and impressed every time. Like when he was picked, I was in this draft, and I like unmuted myself to be like, thank God. Like I know he's a hothead and stuff, but he's just like such a force on the field. I couldn't believe it took this long to get picked. But anyway, anyone have thoughts on the Will pick?
I'm not surprised that it was purple team that picked him. Just that's about it. All I have to say. I'm not surprised that it's purple team. Just looking at the board, all of their chasers are hyper aggressive, I think. But so it makes sense. It's a smart pick.
It fits their
if they do.
Yeah, I think it's gonna work with the chemistry of the other people that they're gonna have on the pitch.
If they do let him beat, this will be the ultimately like peak chaotic beating line possible.
Very true. Okay, hopping to red, we have Nicholas Hall from NAU. Brooke, what do you think of the Nick pick?
So Nicholas, I think this is a good pick without speaking too much to the full team, so you can discuss it later. I like that they've picked a couple NAU players now. I think that's for chemistry. Playing against Nicholas, he's definitely an aggressive player. It's good that they now have, I think, is he the only team? I'm not sure too much of the other players and what they do in addition to their normal role. But I see that they do have someone who has that speaking experience. So I think, yeah, for this round, that's definitely a strong pick.
I think Nick went so late. He's a pretty controversial person in Quidditch after being involved with some Boise things. I wasn't surprised. I knew he was going to get picked because he is such a powerhouse. I remember being at regionals and being like, I don't even know who this person is. And like, they are destroying NAU things, like the fastest person on the field going everywhere. And then I found out who he was, and I was like, this all aligns to what I had expected in my head. Anyway, going to gray, we have Porter, Burcham, is that how you say it?
Burcham.
Okay, cool, great, fantastic. What do you think of this pick, Danica?
I'm stoked. I love Porter. I talked about him a little bit in our last video. I'm glad that he went. So Porter's been playing 1.5 years. He is the new chaser keeper coach for this year. Porter has a lot of just energy. Like, he's a big ball of energy. He has positive energy. Like, he's really athletic. He can play any position except beater. He has beat at practice, so like you could throw him in if you absolutely need to. But he's a good keeper. He's a good chaser, and I know that they probably will have Belton or Michael Seek, but Porter's a good third option. Porter, like I said, just appears to never get tired. Because he is kind of new, he does get, I mean, he's new to keeping. He's been chasing for a while. He's a solid keeper, solid chaser asset. But as a keeper, he does get tied up a little bit easily. He's not used to having to like drive down the pitch. He's gotten way better in the last year, and he does make some brash decisions due to beater pressure. Like he gets a little caught up top if there's a lot of beater pressure. Because he is so new to keeping, and as a chaser, like you don't have to deal with like that first point of contact of pressure, and so he has been getting used to that, but he is still new to it. But like if we're under the assumption that these teams get to practice together for a bit, Porter's coachability is through the roof. Like you tell him to do something and he will just do it. Like he picks up really quick, and I think that it's fair for him to go this late because he is new and still figuring out keeping, but I think that he is a really strong asset to the team because of his energy and his ability to just adapt and take on whatever you tell him to do.
I had no idea who Porter was until I went to Vancouver for Murder Cup with USA, and George or someone had told me that Porter was not playing with us and was just gonna like merc with like the merc team there, and I was like, I mean, I guess that probably means he's like not very good at Quidditch, so he didn't want to like try out and like not make this team or something. And then we got there, it was like on like a merc team that was kind of like a hodgepodge of people that didn't really have a team there, and he was a star. Like everyone was like, who is this person? And then he asked us to play with us for like our last game, and I was like, you should have been playing with us this whole time. And he all of the merc team snitches, like it was crazy, and I was like, why isn't he with us? So
yeah. So to speak to that, he asked me about it. He had missed the deadline and he wasn't sure if he could still join. So he was like, is there another way that I can play? And I was like, well, there's a merc team. Like if you want to. And so he was like, yeah, I'll do that. So he just did it all by himself. I tried to get the rest of my team to do it, and everyone else was like, nah, I'm busy. But Porter was like, yes. And that's the energy I'm talking about. He's just such a like positive person that like he brings any team just through the roof. It's great.
He was such a star, huge fan. I don't know him at all, but I was just like, I was like, I can't believe that you're here. Anyway, going back to what matters. Okay, so for our next pick is Ava Gerbreau. She is a UCLA player, and she will typically partner with Philip if he's not pairing with Justin, and they are like UCLA's like strongest mix set. And I think that by taking Ava, you're getting someone who's used to playing with one of your male beaters that you've already selected, which is going to be immediate chemistry. And if you're taking a female beater this late in the draft, you kind of need chemistry because there's like a reason you haven't gone earlier that you can kind of make up your own chemistry. So I think the Ava pick is super smart for Teal. We're seeing a UCLA lean, especially with the next pick coming in. They're starting to build some chemistry with these younger players, and again, when you get later in the draft and you're not really sure how well these people can perform on like a brand new team like this, building some chemistry between some younger names is probably the smartest way to go. So I think the Ava pick is really smart. She's a super competent beater. She's obviously not some sort of standout star, but I think that she'll do really well with the way that Teal's built already. And then, spoiler, we have another UCLA player. We have Maddie Johnson. She's another just completely competent female chaser on UCLA. There isn't like, I'm not going to pretend to be some UCLA professional, but she's just a smart matchup. She's tall. She's got great hands. She is another rookie like Sammy, but she's got some sports experience as well. She's just one of those people that she hasn't been playing for that long, but similar to Brittany is probably going to make a name for herself. So I like that building onto the UCLA squad that this kind of draft ended with for Teal. So I think all of those picks make sense, especially together, and I am excited for them. Anyone else have thoughts on the Ava or Maddie picks? Neat. Okay, next we are going back to Gray with Jenna McAllister. Danica, what do you think of the Jenna pick?
She has a lot of just raw athleticism in how she plays. She plays about how you'd expect a Utah State chaser to play. She is, like I said, a rookie. She started playing 3 weeks before West Regional Championship. So I haven't seen her play a ton, but she has just this raw athleticism. So she's really good at just like getting into the air because she was a high school high jumper. She's good at getting into the air. So if there's a pass going really wide and like you would expect a chaser to just be like, oh crap, like they reach for it and can't get it, she'll snag it out of the air and just put it in. I think she's a really good asset at this point. Like she is pretty new. So again, I'm not surprised that she went this late, but she is like quick on her feet. She's quick with her hands. She's smart. And she just has like that raw talent.
Yeah, she just is another Utah State blonde that they just have so many of. She's definitely going to be a star when she gets in the game more. She came into Utah State and brought a lot of just like, I know my field awareness, and I know this and I know that, and she's just going to keep excelling from there. So makes sense to be a last round pick. She kind of fits the vibe of like Maddie just picked right before her. Just we're gonna get some rookies that are, if we ever saw these games happen in real life, I think they would really shine, especially on a roster of 12 people, that names that we don't really know. So I like the pick. Happy for Gray, and I think that she's gonna mesh really well with the people on Gray already. Next, we have David Campos. He's a Cal beater. He should have been Ivan's like beating pair. I am not going to pretend that I know anything about David, and all of this information that I'm sharing is from the Red GM. Anyway, David, he was like should have been consistently Ivan's beater partner throughout like the season, but he graduated previously. He was also an ultimate Frisbee player, so only played a few tournaments with Cal. He came in to some practices and stuff, but doesn't have a ton of tournament experience with them. But he's like super smart. He kind of reins Ivan like the chaotic Ivan in. So I think as a pair, it's a really good idea, and it also provides some flexibility for the team. I'm not going to speak to his talent at all because it would be whatever I said. I'm just making up as I go. But according to the Red GM, he's super athletic and is a good fit with Ivan. So that's why this pick went so late. I think maybe if it was a Cal, like if David had been around more, he would have had much more of a name and could have gone much earlier than this. But I think Red had a sleeper pick in mind and waited it out. So that's what I know about David, and we can move on. Next pick, which I am so excited about. Purple has picked up Brooke, and now officially all of our commentators other than Aaron and myself, obviously, as we're not college players, have been picked in this draft, and I'm excited about it. I do want to shout out Aaron from SJSU. When I was doing this draft, I think Purple team was kind of leaning that way until we did a count of the numbers and the gender max had been hit already for Purple. So I just want to shout out Aaron for being someone whose name could have easily been on this board, and I wanted to take the time to do that. But I'm so happy that Brooke is on this board. Brooke is also someone else who can play keeper. They're not listed as that, but again, we're just really honing in on keepers on this team. I think Brooke is a huge like defensive powerhouse. Like Brooke can make stops better than a lot of other female and non-binary chasers that I've seen constantly in the right place on offense, and it's just like, I think getting Will and Brooke together at the end of this draft is like a really big come up. Like I think it's a really good like chemistry pair together, and I was really excited about it when it happened, and I'm excited about it today. But yeah, Brooke, do you have thoughts on your own pick?
On a team like this, I wouldn't expect to keep, nor would I want to, unless something terrible happened, and I would have to, because there are obviously some other powerhouse keepers on this team. But this is a team that I would be really excited to play on. There are a lot of people who I have rarely played against, let alone played with, that I would love to play with. So I'm excited to be on the board at all.
Awesome. And then our very last pick of the draft goes back to blue, and we have Julia Asher from UCI. Rachel, what do you think of this pick?
I'm really glad to see Julia on this board. She's been playing for like 3 years now at AQ. So she is she's really good on defense. Like she doesn't have the size for it, but she does have like that speed for it and the footwork from it. She has a handful of years of experience playing soccer. So she's brought that athleticism over to Quidditch with that. And she's really, really good on placement when it comes to like being by the hoops or being a wing chaser. She gets overlooked a handful of times, so she kind of knows how to just like quietly make her way over there, and then it's like next thing you know she's scoring on you. and she has a lot of good ball carriers that I think will know how to utilize her properly. So she already has experience working with Nathaniel and Lee, and then I think Cameron is going to know exactly how to use her in a game like instantly. They're going to build that chemistry really fast. So I think she's a good fit for like an extra last person to put in on this team.
Awesome. Erin, do you have anything to add to the Julia pick?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think Julia is a really good pick, especially like for this team, like Rachel said. An issue that we had on UCI with Julia last season, was that I don't know if we didn't realize it until this point or if it had never been pointed out to the team as a whole, but Julia has hands approximately like this big. Like they are tiny. And so she has like a really hard time catching the ball just because her hands are so small. And so we had to have a conversation with like, especially our male ball carriers and be like, hey, like, you can't chuck these passes. Like they have to be deliberate. You have to know who you're passing to if you want these passes to connect and you want them to matter. I think playing with, like Rachel said, Nathaniel and Lee, and having like Cameron who has that experience in that game intelligence, I think they're going to be able to adapt to that a lot better than some maybe like newer players or players who really only have like their own play style. So yeah, I think she's a really great pick for this team.
Julia was one of the other people that has really stood out to me during Glorious Bitches Galore. She like was so strong on defense for the size of her physical body, and I had like obviously like seen her before and noticed her as like just a woman in Southern California, but it wasn't until Glorious Bitches that I was like, dang, like she doesn't have a lot of body mass, but she can do some things on defense. She can get in the way, and she can at least put her body on someone to and like was willing to commit. So I was also, I think she's a solid like last pick of this draft, and I think that Blue is a good spot. Okay, so we're gonna leave the draft board up so you can talk about all of it. People can follow along. What I'd like to do is go through each team and have us all like say whatever thought that we want to in whatever order we want to, because we haven't organized this at all. Let's talk about Blue.
Well, first of all, I'd say I think that Blue has probably the strongest beater core, and that's going to like really boost some stuff for them. Like they have Kobe in there. They've got Maxine is a great athletic player too. They have a really strong beater core. They have athletic players that are in there that are going to be able to play aggressive and play smart too.
I'm a little nervous of not having a second like real dedicated ball carrier in this team. Maybe I just don't know enough about some people. Like I know Nathaniel can ball carry, but I know he's a stronger off-ball chaser. I think Brooke earlier said that Corey had been keeping with ASU, so hopefully maybe that is this secondary person. But I know and love Cameron. Obviously, the whole world knows that. But even like at his healthiest of this, he can't ball carry a whole game. So I'm not exactly sure what Blue's like real plan is to see who's going to do something else, whether it's going to be Corey or Nathaniel be Cameron's like primary sub. But other than that, I think Blue is really set up for success. I had talked to the GMs and learned a little bit about like how they each wanted to like play these games, and everyone has these notes too. The combination of Connell, Adam, and Kobe is like just such a strong male beater line that it's pretty rare that Kobe is in a place where he can sub out to Zeke, and having Connell and Adam as someone who like two people who can do a double male set, I think is a really great asset to provide one of the best seekers to be able to seek. But who else has thoughts on Blue?
So Corey can definitely ball carry. Like I said, he's a super strong ball carrier. Something though that I would have been excited to see if Nathaniel was able to sub in. I would love to see Cameron and Corey on the same team. I think that would be a ridiculous powerhouse as far as like a chaser lineup, especially with some of the other awesome wing chasers on this team. That's something I would have loved to have seen if this was real.
Yeah, I had similar thoughts to you, Lindsay. Like, Cameron is an amazing keeper, and they definitely drafted their chasers around a keeper who can pass and, like, read the field really well, but they need someone else to ball carry because, yeah, Cam can't play all game long. Like, he doesn't have that energy to just keep going. He can play hard while he's in, but he needs quick subs. Like, I think even at his best, I've never seen Cameron play a full game because he likes to have that rest so that he can just go hard whenever he's in. So yeah, I also would hope that they have a plan for a sub for him.
Yeah.
That's where kind of like the UCI picks, honestly, in this last round have really come in because I think that you're right, Lindsay. I think that I like both Nathaniel and Lee better as wing chasers, but both of them do have experience ball carrying, and they both can do it. So if it's just something where it's like they're going to ball carry until Cameron is ready to come back in, like I think he does have those subs. I think there's going to be a drop-off, but I think they're there. I really like, honestly, what blue team did, like, and I mean, I think we see a lot of teams doing this, but in how they chose their seekers. You've got 3 players here who have seeking as their secondary position. And so, you know, Kobe is probably like gonna want to go in and like get the first try unless he sees that snitch. I mean, in the theoretical universe where this happens, he sees that snitch and like he sees it as somebody that he knows he can't catch. He's not going to try very long. But I think it's a really great move to have just potential subs for that. And if they get different looks at the snitches, Kobe could go back in the beating line, which automatically just takes that team back up a notch. I mean, we've talked about the strength that Connell, Adam, and Maxine themselves just bring to snitch on pitch beating, just from their experience doing it on all their different teams and stuff like that. But if you're able to pull Kobe back into that line as well, like it really just ups blue team's entire snitch on pitch game so much more.
Definitely agree. I also love like the Catherine and Anna options for the female chasers on this team. Both of them are super strong and are going to play so well with Cameron. Like, as someone who has played with Cameron before, I know the way he plays, and I've seen Catherine and Anna both play plenty of times and know that, like, obviously Anna and Cameron have that chemistry, and I think that was a big reason for the Anna pick. And I think that just it's such a strong chaser line, just as far as your keeper and female chaser like chemistry, that it's just going to grow from there. So I like the way that Blue's set up. They are by far my favorite team, like in like the first round of this. I don't know if they have played that way for me, but it's been very consistent throughout, and I'm excited to see these last few picks and how they've kind of like rounded out their team. So anyone else have thoughts on Blue? All right, cool. Moving on to Purple. The first thing I just want to say, we had talked about this during the draft, and Purple is the only team on this draft board capable of running a dual female line with Danica and Michelle playing together. And if that happens, this team is able to have a line of Kellen, JCR, Blake Rodman, and Will Bray. Those 4 people are some of the most hyper-aggressive, fastest, like Elijah fits in there as well. These male chaser keepers on a line together is the most terrifying option in this board, in my opinion. I don't think that Danica and Michelle together can they're going to be needing to play against like the second tier line of beaters for these, well as capable as I think both of them are in a line against like Kobe and Adam together, Philip and Anthony Tucker. Like no one wants that. But if they're playing another mixed set, they're going to be able to carry their own. And if that's a possibility, to have those between 4 of their 5 on the field of their male quaffle players is absolutely insane. And it provides that team so much flexibility. And I love it. I love it. Anyway, and that anyone else can talk, but I just wanted to get that out of the way.
I kind of just want to see that like actually play out, because I feel like that game would be so chaotic. Like just the moment they go in with like full female beaters and they put all those males on the pitch for the quaffle play, like it's just gonna be like just full force running at it.
That would be the fastest sub ever. Just everyone sprints off the field and back on to just sprint down the field again.
Yeah.
I don't know, Elijah. I am not going to presume to speak to their talent level at all, but I have seen a majority of these other players play, and like, I'm sorry, that chaser line is going to get eaten alive by any beater. It is just going to be like, they're going to be jumping off passes to each other, and like, almost any beater on this board is going to be zooming around and just beating them out one by one. There's not enough speed there. Please don't do that, Purple GM.
Honestly, I don't know though. But it was like, I agree with Blake and Will in that regard, but like Kellen and JGR are like both they are speedy boys. And like, I think that if they were to set it up as with Blake ball carrying, and Will, Kellen, and Jonathan is off ball, I think they have the speed to do some things. And I think that Danica and Michelle can make an impact as long as you're not playing against these two strong like dual male set. I don't know. I think that's terrifying. I think between Kellen and Jonathan alone, there's a lot of speed there, but more about purple. Moving on.
Well, and I think that if you even just take that line and adjust it by swapping out one of those guys for one of the awesome female or non-binary chasers on the team, like Nicole or Amelia, who's also there, and then putting Michelle in with Justin or Danica in with Justin, that makes that lineup that much smarter, which I think that line could use a little bit more strategy if you just have that all-male chaser line.
Okay.
But I think that either way, I think this would be a really interesting and also aggressive team to watch. I would love to sit back with like some popcorn and watch that hypothetical all-male lineup run.
Yeah,
Purple
really,
by far has like the peak potential for chaos.
and I do think that the strongest like wave to play this would be a split set, because they do have 3 female non-binary chasers that they have are all like pretty aggressive as well. Like, so it's literally a team of, how many chasers do they draft? 8. It's 8 keepers and 4 beaters is what's gonna be on this team. So like, I think that the split set would work really well because they're not losing a ton if they switch out one of their male ball carriers for a female or non-binary player, just because all of the chaser keepers on this team do play like pretty aggressively. So I mean, honestly, like just looking at it, my guess is that they're planning on their beaters just like trying to control the game in an either aggressive or smart way, and then just having their chasers just take it in as many times as possible.
I agree, which I'm sad about, because I think that with Amelia and Nicole as like wings, I'm not sure how much they're gonna see like offensive attention. It's like same with Brooke, but like Nicole and Michelle are like really strong wing chasers. Like that's what they're used to. That's what they're really good at. So I'm hoping that they would get a chance to succeed here. I'm not saying the dual female beater set is the best choice, but it's the only team that has an option that make that like could run it with like the 2 most competent female beaters to do a set like that on the board. And it like I don't know who of those 4 do you even leave open? Like and anyway, I think they also have some of the most flexibility in their beaters. I think, like, as we've talked about before, literally all of those pairs work. Like we've gone through the list already, and all of them make sense in their own way. It's even like how different they are. And I think some teams are like, this makes more sense to pair this way or this way. And I think purple really can do anything depending on who they're matched up against. And I think that gives them a little flexibility too.
Yeah, and if they did want to go for a more passing line, they could get Kellen in at keeper with Amelia and Nicole, and then run a double male, because that would be their passing line. I think if they're playing that split, it's going to end up being a driving line. Yeah. But if they wanted a passing line, they can easily put like Kellen in with Amelia because they have that chemistry. Honestly, I personally would do, like, if you're going to do a double male, do a lineup with Kellen, Blake, Amelia, and Nicole, just because I think that those 4 would be a good passing together if they wanted to run that double male, which they easily can.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to like kind of question the effectiveness of purple team as a majority driving team, just because, I mean, like, beater 101 is like, I literally, wow, so clearly remember Chris Cito teaching me this at West Fantasy when, oh my God, I'm really sorry. What is that other old ASU keeper's name?
I feel like you're talking about Dylan Bryant.
Oh yeah,
I think I am, but like,
DB.
It's a long time ago, so who really knows? Anyways, yeah, I remember so clearly. We were on defense, and like Cito literally says to me, he's just like, "Don't worry, he's not gonna shoot. Just stay here." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So it's like, if you have like intelligent beaters, which like blue team does, gray team does. I don't know like all of these beaters, so I can't really speak to all of their abilities. But like, you're gonna have those beaters who know that on an all driving line like this team, like it's just going to be more effective if you just stay in your hoops and like wait for them to come to you. So I do, until Danica honestly like kind of brought up that point about like, oh, like, yeah, let's get this passing line going. And especially I think Timothy and Justin are going to be a really good combination because Timothy has that experience with Kobe. Like he's used to playing in that double male set. Like he's used to playing with a hyper aggressive partner. He's used to making the strategic choices while his partner just kind of like goes off the rails doing athletic person things. So yeah, way to save this line for me, Danica. Because I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen here, honestly.
And I will say that I have seen Kellen, I've seen Jonathan, I've seen Blake, and I've seen William Bray. I've seen all four of them make those long shots, and like you don't think they're gonna go in because it's so far, but like I don't know how they do it. Like they can make those long, like Tony Rodriguez makes those buckets from half pitch. Like I've seen all four of them do that at some point. So like, even though they are heavy drivers, I do think that they still have that option as well. If they're not going to pass and they're just going to take it themselves, they're still really good at making those long shots. Don't know a ton about Elijah as far as like long shots, so I wouldn't be able to attest to that. But those four I have seen make those long shots, and it could work. It's definitely a lot more risky.
I think Elijah would fit really well into that passing line because I think that he can keep and he can drive, but SJSU functions much stronger as like a passing offense. And I think a line with Kellen, Elijah, Nicole, and either Brooke or Amelia would be a completely different team than if you have Jonathan, Blake, Will on the field together. So I think that they can easily run this team either way, as like hyper aggressive drivers or like switch the gear. And like Blake's also used to playing on a passing team. Utah State is not like they can drive. Kellen drives, Cameron drives, but Blake is used to being on a team that really passes a lot. Like we've talked about that with every female chaser from Utah State being drafted. Like that's what they're used to. So Blake knows that and he can play it that way, but he's just like a large powerhouse who can also make those drives.
Yeah, so I definitely think that this team, not only in their beater versatility of what partners they want, they also just have like a versatility of what even kind of play style they want to go for, which I think is cool because they can change it up based on what team they're playing against.
Awesome. Do you have more thoughts on purple? Cool. Dive into red. Red, when talking with the GMs, a lot of the things that they had to say was like how much space red can create. And we've kind of shit on red a little bit by being like, this is just like Cal 2.0. But as far as they're concerned, Cal 1.0 went to Final Four and then went to championship game at Nationals. That's not a bad thing to go after. So I do think that red, while a lot of us are going to be like, especially without Catherine here today, a lot of us aren't going to be able to like go into in-depth like concepts of their lines and et cetera. They are set up for success. Like a lot of like we say, like Luke kind of plays defending, so that kind of like subs that out. Steph kind of fills the role that AJ was, and I see what Cal's doing. I do, and. It's not Cal. I see what red is doing.
It's Cal.
I see what Cal is doing because it's the Cal team, but I see what red is doing when we have said like they're just taking a lot of Cal people. And Cal's good. Like it makes sense. But it is true. Like they do have a lot of shooters on this team, which is going to allow them to spread the field really well, and it's going to create relationships between like Luke and Eli, make these long passes, and then have Eli take a shot before a beater could even get close to him. So I think there's
I do like that in their places where they're not having Cal, they filled in 3 NAU. I like that chemistry. It looks like they have basically a full NAU line with like maybe a Cal put on there, or even the Irvine, right? Like they definitely went for like 2 lines of different chemistry. So they have a Cal line and they have a non-Cal line. And I think I think that it could work for them because they went for the chemistry, and so their chasers know how to work together. And there's 4 that aren't Cal. Like if you're including Luke in the Cal line because he's sub for Fenning, right? You've got the Cal line, and then you've got 4 that can sub in to be a non-Cal line, and they definitely went for the chemistry and the chasers there. So, I mean, I think that was actually really smart.
I think it was really smart for them to fill in the gaps in their Cal team with, I mean, like, I don't know all of these players, especially the chasers, but from what I've been hearing, from what you guys have been saying, what Catherine has told us and stuff like that, like, it sounds like they filled in the holes in this line with athletes. You can't really go wrong doing that in a fantasy draft. I mean, like, when shit hits the fan, like, you know, we can talk about chemistry all day and stuff like that. We can talk about these players' ability to spread a defense and stuff like that. But it's like, that comes down to a lot of chemistry. And with the Cal line has that chemistry to be able to do that. But what you're going to have to rely on for these other players that you're kind of just like expecting to play together, like they're going to have like whatever theoretical weeks to practice together and stuff like that to build that chemistry. But it's like at the end of the day, like if they are all just players who know how to play a role, like that is going to make your team far stronger than anything else that you could really do for them. And to me, that filled like a lot of the holes that I was seeing on this team from the beater line. I mean, I'm not sorry, but like I'm still not hype on this beater line. Like I'm sure it's fine, and I think it's great. Like I think it was a really good choice to put Ivan with 2 beaters that he does have that chemistry that we talked about that he probably isn't going to have with Stephanie. Like I think that saved it a little bit, but I do wonder, knowing that I don't know all of these players, but I do know that some of them are first-year players. So how much can we really expect them to successfully spread the defense as much as we would like want to see them do?
Kind of building a little bit off of what Erin was saying, I think they did a good job of trying to fill in those gaps, because you definitely have like your Cal players and then everyone else that they sort of filled in with. I think it was really good that in the end they swooped in and took Carrie and Brittany, because I think both of those are players that kind of get overlooked sometimes, obviously because she's only been playing for 1 year, and then Carrie also, like, I don't feel like she gets talked about too much, but then like if you actually take the time to like watch her play, you're like, oh wow, Carrie is like really good. Like she's got the stamina, she's got the speed, she knows like placement on the pitch, she has really, really good hands. So they picked like 2 female players that can go on the wing and like know what they're doing, and are like, they're not just like dump pass girls either. They know how to move around the pitch and get to those open spots and see those opportunities. So they picked other people besides Cal that started to fill in some of those cracks that they had. I don't know too much about their beaters though, because I think I'm only seeing Steph is the only female and non-binary player that they have in their beater line. And Steph, like they're definitely going to have to run double male, so they have good female chasers to fill in that, but Steph is going to gas out if she's on there like more than half the time.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about that as well. They have 3 male Cal beaters, and Cal plays double male all the time. So either Stephanie's not going to get a lot of playtime because they're just going to try and run double male as much as possible, or there's going to be some weird chemistry thing going on at some point in one of these pairs. Because none of these male beaters are used to playing with a female beater like Steph. And yeah, I don't know exactly what their starting line is going to look like, but I also don't know where they're going to go with it after the game starts, right? Like at some point there's going to be a disconnect there, because you've got 3 beaters who are all male, know how to work together really well, and then you've got Steph, who's kind of an outsider female beater that none of them have experience with.
Yeah, I think Steph is a very versatile beater. So like if you were just gonna throw any random female beater in there, like she's probably gonna be able to adapt to it pretty well. But like you're saying, I don't think they're gonna know how to use her to her full potential, and there's gonna be some cohesion issues maybe.
Oh yeah, no, Steph's a great player. I think the problem is just gonna be, honestly, the male beaters adapting to playing with a female beater, because Cal doesn't. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Cal just never uses female beaters. So this lineup's going to be really good as far as female chasers, like utilizing them. But I am curious what they're planning on doing with like that lineup of their beaters with Steph.
We talk about it all the time, like adaptability in female beaters is just like the golden standard. We want all of our female beaters to be able to play to any male beater in the world. And if she can do that, she is just like great. We don't talk about the fact that beaters play as a pair, and your male beater needs to be able to adapt to the female beater as well. If you can't do that, you're not going to be a successful pair because you're placing all of that work on one person in that pair. It just doesn't work that way. Like, we can want it to work that way as much as we want, but as somebody who has been forced in that role many times, it does not work the way that you think it's going to initially. So yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, I don't need to harp on this. We've talked about my concerns with the beater line enough.
But yeah, no, it definitely goes both ways. Like, you need adaptability on both sides. And I don't know the male beaters enough to say how adaptable they are, but I do know that they're used to playing with each other, and it's going to be interesting to watch them attempt to adapt.
I just want to touch a little bit more on the red chasers, just because we just spent so much time talking about the beaters. I want to ignore. They do have, I am really excited to see, I'm not excited to see any, I keep saying that like this is going to really happen. Like, I'm excited to see this. I'm not going to see any of it. But I do love Luke paired with all of these players that are used to playing on pass heavy teams. Like, Carrie and Brittany are two more pickups that are used to like playing on UCI, which is like a strong, like UCI passes. I don't know that much about Connor Sparks, but I know that he's going to be a super strong driver to kind of complement what Luke's capable of, in the same way with Nick. I'm not sure if NAU really capitalizes on the talent of Carrie and Sophie, but if they do, Nicholas will know that and will be able to play to their strengths as well. So I don't think that they have the strongest quaffle line here, but I do really like it. And I do think that they've chosen players that, while they're not all from the same team, they play relatively similar games. So I think that that's going to help them in the long run. And yeah, that was my thought on those.
Yeah, I do like that they have Nick as a seeker. So like pre snitch on pitch, Nick and Luke are drastically different play styles. Nick is very much more of a driver, and Luke is a lot more of a passer. So I think that difference between the two, they can utilize a lot before snitch on pitch. But during snitch on pitch, Nick is a seeker. He's very aggressive, and he'll just go for it, which, I mean, can be detrimental to the snitch himself or herself, because they'll get hit, or their self. I don't know how to grammar. It's fine. But I do think that adding him to the team, even this late, it was good for them to have another seeker option. Or if they want to go more aggressive during snitch on pitch, Luke also has experience seeking. He's done it, and he's got those long arms that are hard to, like, it's kind of like the Dan Howland, if anyone remembers Dan Howland body type, like just really noodly and can just kind of go around the snitch. So they can go either way with both their keepers. Like, they can pick which one they want to stay for snitch on pitch and which one they want to go seek.
Luke also did comment on the first YouTube BCC thing and said like thanks Red GM, I promise I won't pass, or something, like made some joke about how he'll drive in this fake tournament. So so maybe he would. Maybe he's gonna take this criticism to heart and is gonna step onto the field next season if it ever happens, and gonna start to be a lot more selfish. But who knows? But yeah, anyway, okay, let's move on to Gray. Oh, one more thing I want to say about Red Team. Danica just talked about not sure like how they're going to start. I do have their starting lines, and they are planning to start Ivan with David, which I think is interesting. Your first and your last pick together, but as we talked about earlier, David was Ivan's partner before he graduated in December and kind of like super wasn't involved. But with Stephanie as a chaser, Sophie as a chaser, Luke keeping, and then Eli. I think that Luke and Eli are the strongest keeper-chaser pair on the board. Like, I think all of the chasers here are competent, but with Luke's passing ability mixed with the fact that Eli can catch any ball and score on almost every play is a really great pair. So anyway, moving on to Gray. What do we think about Gray Team?
So it looks like Gray Team is planning on probably running double male a lot of the time, because they didn't pick too many like male wing chasers to go in. I think they only have 2 in there, and then they picked a lot of female non-binary wing chasers. So it'll be interesting to see how this, well, if we could see this, it'd be interesting to see how they would be playing differently than everyone else, because they do have, I believe, one, Amanda is a beater, yeah. But they have like some pretty strong male beaters in there. And they're not going to be able to run too many male chasers in there, because I don't know too much about Michael from UCLA, but I know Daniel will gas out really fast, so he can't be in there most of the time. He has to have subs in there. And then you also have Michael and Daniel as your seekers. So again, for snitch on pitch, I think it's going to be male beaters in there, and then a lot of female non-binary chasers. So they would definitely be playing differently than the other teams.
I think Amanda is someone who's going to fit in really well on this team, just because she can play as both beater or chaser, and she does both super effectively. Like you said, I think this is definitely going to be a team where they are running a lot of double male, and I would love to see Amanda get in some chasing time because of that. She can obviously still sub in for beating if she needs to. She's a great beater, but I think with some of the other chasers on this team, she could really excel. She is very strong. She can take hits really well, and she has great hands. She can really catch so well. So I don't mean to just gush over Amanda here, but I think just looking at everyone else on this team fits in.
This looks like a passing team. Right, like I mean, the last 3 I know pass a lot. Like Rachel, your team passes. Probably not as much as like maybe Utah State, because they pass literally every 2 seconds. But I think every player on this team is used to passing, at least to some extent. It's not a ridiculously drive heavy team. I think that they're going for smart on this team, because even their beaters like Drew and Harry together would be, yes, they can make those long beats. Yes, they can play aggressive, but they also would play really smart together. And I think that that's the key to this team if they're going to go for that double male. They've got a lot of chasers who are going to want to pass and like go around the beaters. And I think they definitely drafted their team around other teams having hyper aggressive beater sets. They wanted their chasers to be smart and like be able to pass around all that's happening. And it's honestly like quite a bit different than a lot of the other teams. Like red team definitely can pass, but they also have like that driving. I think gray team is more heavily passing than even red team. So it's kind of nice to see that like change.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think gray team, it's really hard to say honestly, because I don't know every player on the board, so I can't definitively say, but gray team is definitely in at least my top 2, edging on maybe my favorite team of this draft, for the exact reasons that Danica stated. Like, I think that this team was built off intelligence, which in Quidditch is a combination of your play style and also your experience. And so I think that especially is something that was very carefully crafted from a college draft, especially. Like, we don't have a lot of players out here. Like, a lot of these players are, especially we talked about like the last few rounds, like are newer players or rookies or whatever. Some people only have a year or 2 of experience. A lot of these players don't have any MLQ experience. So like there's a lot of just like kind of like diversity in the level of experience and intelligence these players are going to bring to their lines. And I think it was a really smart and probably calculated move on this GM's part to put all of these intelligent, adaptable players together.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I really like the way that Gray has built this team up. I think that the Drew and Harry combination is going to be one of the, it will probably combat against the strength of the Blues beater, but I think that like we've said before, I've said in another BAC episode that Drew and Snap like won Utah State their regional title, and I think Harry plays very similar to Drew, and so that's like, it's going to be really hard to take bludger control away from the Gray team, because Drew and Harry are just hard people to physically hit with the ball. Like, they are good at blocking and avoiding and hitting first, and it's going to be difficult for these beaters if they lose control to get it back from a pairing of Drew and Harry. I think that's really going to work to their benefit. I also think the Porter pick makes this team really flexible. I know that they're like obviously limited in their male quaffle players, but every team is, because they only have 12 picks. But I think that Porter's ability to play off ball with Tony and then also has the ability to play as a keeper with Michael, just kind of adds some like depth to this team because he can do both. And also this is the only team I think that has like again combated to blue, has 3 like competent, capable seekers. Porter's not listed as a seeker. When I asked Gray GM if they had planned to use Porter as a seeker, they're like probably not, but I still think Porter is a competent 3rd string seeker. And if this is a real tournament and you have 12 people, you need multiple options to end the game, and that helps them the same way it helps blue. Yeah, I just think that their female and non-binary chasers are going to really kind of make this team what they are. And I think having the line that they have of Dana, Amber, Rachel, and Jenna is steals that they were able to get all of these people. I think they're set up for a lot of success if they can match the paces of these other teams. Because I think if other teams try to go fast and they can't slow another team down to like kind of match the level that they want to be playing at, other than like Daniel and Dana, these people aren't used to a high pace game. So if they can't like slow a game down to play the like calm, calculated, smart game that they want to play, I'm not sure how they'll succeed. But if they can set the tone and like set the pace, I think this is going to be a really, really, really hard team to beat.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go back just for a second. Talking about Rachel, actually, I think that obviously this is a very smart choice for Gray to pull Rachel. I also think it was, I don't know if this is like mean or a hot take or whatever, but like kind of dumb of all these other teams to let Rachel go 6 rounds without being pulled, knowing that she could be pulled onto a line with Tony and Daniel. That's like, honestly, like the fact that like it's honestly a double whammy. The fact that she is on this line at all, not on another team. Like you would have like gotten just like the skills of like, you know, mid to high mid-level female chaser on your line by pulling Rachel. You also would have taken her away from so many of these players that she is like has all this chemistry with. And so it's like, I think it would have dealt like hit to Gray team as well as kind of bolstered, you know, I don't know all of these names, but like kind of sometimes, and like this is not always true, but it's like when there are players to know, you've at least kind of like heard them talked about. So it's like there are times where it's, yeah, like Rachel probably should have gone sooner. I don't know where, because I don't know how to judge these players, like all of them, but
something that, okay, well, real quick, Lindsay mentioned the seeker thing with Porter. They may not want to utilize him, but he was our starting seeker all year, so I'm just gonna put my 2 cents in on that. He's a good seeker, and again, he doesn't run out of energy. But the other thing is, I don't know a lot about the Cal players per se and how their defense is, but looking at the Utah-based chaser quaffle lineup, they're not like super aggressive on defense. And I think with the other teams being like, especially with purple teams aggressive like drivers, I don't know how much Gray team will be able to body up against that. Because like Amber is she's good defensively, like she'll get in there, but she is tiny and Will Bray will just pummel her every time. Yeah, so that's that. I honestly think that that's my biggest concern with Gray team. Yes, they're a smart team. Yes, they're good passers, but I don't think any of them are particularly large as far as like at least the bottom half that I'm looking at here. Like Jenna's not huge. She's also only been playing a few months, so like she doesn't have that like good positioning experience to make those hits. Porter's not, he's still learning how to wrap. I don't know Rachel's, I haven't seen you do that, but Amber like is small, and you know Dana is also small. I'm sure at least decent at stepping up. I just don't know how well they're gonna do against the ridiculous drives of purple. Like they have to play really smart in order to match that body up, like size wise.
Yeah, I think the weakness of this team is gonna be the size of it being able to body up, and then also just the stamina, because like a lot of you said, this is very much more a smart team. If they were to try to run things fast, then that's when they're going to start to lose things. That's when things are going to get out of control for them. If they can set the pace, set the tone a little bit more, then they could like make some really phenomenal plays. But besides like Daniel's going to be like the most physical person on this team, and he can definitely like run. You can hand him the ball and he'll run in and score like 3 times in a row. But if you plan on doing that every time, Daniel's going to gas out really, really fast. And you don't have a whole lot of other people that can step into that sort of role either. You have like Dana is small, but Dana is a very physical player too. So Dana can step up to some of that stuff too. And then there's a couple other players in there. Like Tony can step up a handful of times. I, on a good day, can stand up there. But just in general, yeah, like if it's going too fast paced, too many hits and stuff like that, then this team will probably start to gas out kind of fast.
Yeah, if Daniel or Dana is not able to stop someone coming up at point, it's not going to be very easy for Gray to stop a team as far as chasers go. I think their beaters are going to end up stopping
yeah,
their chasers
sure.
are going to. So that's definitely like if we like follow the snake, and if Gray had taken like Will instead of Porter for their 11th pick, that would have like bolstered their like body contact and like how massive of a person Will is. But I think Porter's a smarter player and Gray is picking smart, and I think that makes sense for what they're going for, but they're definitely missing some like body mass on that team. Anyone have more thoughts on Gray? Cool. All right, well, go to Teal. Who has thoughts on Teal?
So to start, I guess, like mentioned earlier, Teal is the only person or the only team who has a person who's basically a dedicated seeker. Like I said, Tanner is also an awesome chaser, but he is a killer seeker. Like I mentioned, he caught 6 times at regionals. He's absolutely ridiculous. He is someone who, if you put in when we're ready to be done, basically, no matter what position we're in, if we're ready to be done, we put Tanner in because we know he can finish. So I think, I don't know a ton about the other people on this team, but looking at it in any situation, Teal, if they're a team who can keep it in range, they're going to be a team who can win games. And I don't doubt that they can keep it in range just based off some of the players that I do know.
I do question their ability to keep it in range personally. Again, I don't know every player. I know that Aiden Phipps, based on Fenning's post in AQD, is a player to know. And I know based on his last name that he's a player I should probably know. But like I recognize the name now that I have like heard it in more context. And so I'm sure that based on Cal's kind of like team legacy, that the Cal players at least are going to be decent. However, it is not going to stop their beaters from getting eaten up by a lot of, if not almost all of the beaters on this board. It's not going to stop the fact that, is it just the 2 picks at the bottom or 3 last round picks for Teal are all rookies? Like, it's just like there's a lot of kind of like chaos, but not in a fun way, of like purple teams going on this team. And I think that, yeah, like Teal GM was kind of going for like the chemistry here, but I'm just not, I obviously, well, you would never know because you never get to see it happen. So like quidditch is 50% luck or whatever. And like, but yeah, so I mean, there's no way of knowing how this team would do, but like on paper, I'm a little confused, I think.
I think that like there's a lot, like they went with speed while Gray went with smarts. I think a lot of the like if Teal can play against Gray and keep the game moving fast, because they have a lot of really fast players, that's gonna make what we just said Gray will struggle with, is if Teal can set the pace of a game with like chasers like Simone, who are like can run up and down the field like forever. I think that's where they're going to succeed, is by faster plays. If they can capitalize on those faster plays, is with a 12-person roster, if they can keep that pace up and tire out another team, I think that's going to be their best chance for success. I do think Ava's a second-year player, not a full rookie, but obviously UCLA plays a dual male most often. So if you're on a team that plays a dual male, often you're basically like a first-year player because you play half the time that you should have, because your team's not playing you the way that they should or could. But I do like that Teal is set up to have the opportunity for 2 mixed sets. Some of these other teams have gone more on the dual male side. So I do like that flexibility in the team, and that it allows for some more male couple players to be in the game at the same time, to kind of capitalize on that speed and those points. We had talked about being a little confused about Aiden going first when there are some other more experienced, I guess, keepers. And so I have liked the way that they've gone, like their second part, and the last part, I like we said, like I guess they were going to go for chemistry, and it's just hard to know if that chemistry is going to work when you have like younger players that aren't really used to playing with these new people. Having two non-male UCLA chasers playing with a Cal keeper, sure that those two people have chemistry together, but they've never played with the Cal keeper. So like, is that going to work with it that they want it to? But who else has thoughts on Teal?
I think it's interesting that every other team drafted 4 beaters and called that good for their numbers, and Teal went for 5. As energetic as this team is and athletic, if they've got just like a bunch of beaters on the sideline because they only beat, I don't know if they all only beat, I don't know them super well, but like if they've just got their beaters sitting on the side, like waiting to take their sub, their chaser line is gonna wear out a lot faster. Like regardless of how athletic you are, you eventually get tired. You're human, right? So having extra beaters, I don't know, it's questionable to me. Like I get what the other GMs did with the 4. Like it seems more even for like a lineup on a field. Everyone's got like 1 sub. I'm curious what their plan is for 5 beaters. Like how are they gonna do the pairs if there's an extra odd man out? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it would be one thing if we were expecting to see like a dual male snitch on pitch, and then but then if you're gonna do that, it's great to have 3 male beaters and like to like rotate through them. But then Olivia and Ava aren't known for flexing to chaser, so that leaves when you only have 12 people, you have 2 people on your sideline who I guess could sub into chase, but aren't really going to be as strong as some of the other female and non-binary chasers we saw picked. So I agree, it is risky. I like I said, I do like their capability of having the ability to play 2 mixed sets, but when your roster's only 12 people and having 5 of them be a position that plays 2 spots on the field and much less playing the position that plays 4 spots on the field, your numbers need to be a little more calculated, I think. But they're hoping the Teal team's GM is to use a mix set, and I think that Teal team is aware of the lack of strength in their beater line and is hoping for like the talent and the speed of like Simone and Aiden and Dara to like step up and really like run this game. And like they are really smart athletic players. I just don't know if it's going to be enough.
If they're banking on just like maybe 3 or 4 players running their lines, they're gonna get tired eventually. You can't keep them in all game long. And it feels like there's a lot more of a drop off between their first line and their second line as far as chasers. Because like we said, the 2 chasers who were drafted this round are both rookies. So like there's just a big drop off there. And I'm worried about how they're going to do once their first line gets tired and needs that sub. They may be able to run their like first line longer because of that raw athleticism and like energy. But at some point they need to sub them out, and it is a decent drop off.
Well, it's also, like we've kind of pointed out already, it's a lot to ask of chasers to play against not only other strong chasers, but strong beaters essentially on their own. Like if they don't have the beater supporting them, at least like taking that beater battle for them, then all these players are going to be responsible for blocking, passing off, making more cuts or dodges, and like not only doing all of that successfully, but also doing all of that in a way that also keeps them in a position to score. And that's like a lot to ask of chasers, because I mean, other than evasive maneuvers, you can't really like combat anything a beater wants to do to you.
I want to really quick, just talking about beaters. I know I guessed about him a lot when he was drafted, about him being Teal, but I want to circle back to Anthony. And I can't speak for some of the other beaters on the team just because I don't know them well. But I think Anthony and Phil together could really save either the second line, or it could really just be an impressive addition to that first line. And I think because Anthony is a beast, he, especially under pressure, is going to make it happen. So I think it could go definitely either way, just making that first line, just that more intense, or helping with the second chaser line and helping kind of lessen the gap there with that drop off.
Overall, I was kind of confused with what Teal was trying to do here, because like you guys were saying, they went with 5 beaters, and that gives them the option to do double mail, and that can be very strong for them. But I don't think they went with super strong female and non-binary chasers for this, and maybe I just don't know those players well enough. But those names don't stick out to me as much as some of the names on the other teams do. So I don't know if running double mail is going to be super strong for their quaffle game then. But then when they go back to when they do a male female beater line, that'll strengthen their quaffle game a bit. But it's still weird that they went with so many beaters, and just there's not too many names on here that like I recognize as much as on other teams. So I feel like maybe they know something about a handful of these players that I just haven't heard a lot about. But I don't see too much of like exactly like, oh, they're going for like speed and stamina, they're going for the smart players or anything like that. It's kind of a bit of a mix.
It's definitely more of a confusing lineup than the rest. Like, right, like we can say gray team is smart, purple team is going for aggression, blue team is going for like a mix of like aggressive beaters and like smart chasers. But like teal team is kind of up in the air for me. I have no idea how they're planning to play it.
I think part of that too is like honestly going 5th in a 5-round draft, especially out here. Like, I mean, we're not the Southwest, we're not in Texas, where it's like, oh, cool, you can pull any of literally like 20 players and they're all top tier players. I think that, I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020. This does not help anybody right now, but especially in a draft like this, like you see immediately all 3, like 2.5 of your like top tier beaters are gone within the first like 2 rounds, 3 rounds. You have Belton going off the board, who is an elite ball carrier, wing chaser, and seeker, going off the board immediately. Like, this is the time when you pivot and you pull like the strongest female non-binary. Like, even if you want to pick Aiden, also pull Eli 5th. Like, it's just like you should have like there was a lot of opportunity to build up the positions that other people hadn't started pulling from. And, obviously that does not help teal team now, but in terms of like how drafts work, I think it can be easy to kind of like see all of those picks go first and be like, fuck, what do I do now? And it's like, the answer is that you just kind of like build up everything you can as quickly as you can, so that A, your team is that much stronger in those positions, and B, the other teams don't get those players.
I've said this a million times, I want these games to happen because teal is full of like younger players. Like, we know that. And I want teal to prove me wrong and have these like rookies and like 2, maybe even 3-year players step up and be like, I can compete with Cameron and Luke who have been playing for these 5 years. Like, I want that to happen, but it's just hard from like an analyst standpoint to be like, they haven't been playing for that long. They don't like, I've seen them in games and they've like maybe stood out, but like, not enough for me to ask who they are. Like, other than Anthony Tucker, who I did ask someone else on ASU who Anthony is. And part of the reason why I'm happy to have like such a diverse like group here is because if like I can be like, I've seen Anthony play, he's really good, but like having Brooke be able to be like, no, like Anthony is capable of working with Philip and going toe to toe with a lot of these like other dual male sets. Like, we need that here because we can't speak for everybody. So I think teal arguably has like the most potential to be proved wrong, other than if like blue or gray like crashes, then obviously we are proved wrong in that regard. But I think we all are like on the same page of being like, I'm still not really sure what their angle is. I talked to the GMs. I sent everyone like my notes. They want to play a mix set. They have a fast team. I do think that Dara is a huge asset on this team. She plays on Cal and is like a competent Cal player, but I think in this situation she's going to step up like never before, and I think she is going to like be a huge carrier, and she's also used to playing a full game. We all know, we've talked about it before, Cal doesn't sub that much, and Dara's used to playing a lot of minutes, and I think that is same with like Aiden and TJ, they're used to playing the full game. So even if their second line isn't that strong, they have a lot of experience having a lot of minutes on the field. And that may be like the biggest asset for Teal, is just having these Cal players that are so used to like staying in the game for a really long time. So I think there's potential there. I think that we could all be proven wrong pretty easily with the recognition of more of these players that we all don't know very well. Like Sammy, I know came up with a few people that I've spoken to about this draft. I don't really know Sammy that well. I've seen her play maybe once or twice, and she was good. But also UCLA is not super known for using their female chasers correctly, as we talked about with some other picks on the board. So maybe Sammy playing with TJ and Aiden, who have experience on Cal, who utilizes their female chasers more than anybody else, are going to use them properly, and we'll be like, oh damn, like Sammy's gonna score half the points in this team. Like we don't know. Yeah. But I do think that there's still some gaps on Teal that I would have liked to see filled that we really haven't, but that just may be due to lack of knowledge. Who knows? Okay. I also want to talk quickly about some snubs. We've been doing this for a while, but here we go. We've talked a lot about Matt Jackson here. I'm really sad to not see him make this top list. I know Danica is too. I spoke to the GMs a little bit about it, and a lot of them seemed to be like, I was between one and two other people, and just like it was like a 50-50, and I went this way based on like something small. That was a vibe I heard from like three of them. So it seems like Matt Jackson just got like the wrong side of the flip of a coin a few times, but I do think he would have been a huge asset to a lot of these teams. For Gray, I think Ben Sebastian could have been filled in with Matt Jackson, and I think that may have been a little bit of a stronger pick. That also just maybe due to like my knowledge of UCLA not really using their deeper beaters, so I may not know. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything about Matt Jackson. Please feel free.
I have so many feelings about Matt Jackson. Matt started playing the same year I did. We were both rookies on the Crimson Flyers, and he started coaching. So Matt has that communication experience. He was my beater partner this year. He's super strong. He also is like one of the few people in Utah who has every year that there was MLQ in Utah, he was on the team or he was on the practice squad, but he played with us for 3 years. And I think like he really should have gone. And like, I love Utah State, but I really think that Matt could have replaced Adam. Like, I think that Matt is that big of a talent that he could have gone there. It's really sad to me to not see him on here because he has so much talent and he's versatile. He can keep, he can seek, he can chase. He started as a chaser. He's been beating for 4 years. Like, he knows how to step it up and he's smart about it. He also has that arm. He has a similar arm to Drew. He can make those long beats. Like, I can't even talk because it makes me upset that he's not on here. Like, I get that, like, you know, like, he's not a huge name because he is from Utah and my team's not big, but I would have expected, honestly, to see him on here over, like, Porter. Like, I would draft Matt as a keeper probably over, or at least similarly to Porter, just because Matt has that experience and he can be drafted as any position. So yeah, I'm a little heartbroken that he's not on here.
Okay. Another snub that we've spoken about that honestly, I won't lie, literally completely forgot about until like this last like video and some comments and stuff, but Eric Shen from Cal not being selected I think is crazy. He's super speedy, super talented. He also has like leadership experience. He captained this past year with Dara. He was last year, Cal barely subbed, and Eric was one of the people that got to see the field as a sub for Cal. So the fact that he even saw the field last year and was a part of these runs that made it to the finals, like alone speaks to that, like, he's more than capable. I'm so surprised to not see him on this board. I don't know these like lower male chasers. I don't have a ton of experience like knowing. Blake and Will were picked for like their size and etc. So Eric doesn't fill that same like quota, but if you're looking at some like these smaller male quaffle players, like I like Corey or Tanner's a seeker. Obviously, this is like Eric can't bring that to the table, but like I am very surprised that Eric's not here. I don't know if anyone else. I know Catherine's not here, but if anyone else wants to speak about Eric not being on the board, please feel free.
I mean, I don't know a ton about Eric as a player other than what I've seen and heard about him playing. But, I mean, yeah, like it sounds like that would have been a really good pick for Teal, especially if they want to go with the speedy route, if they want to go with this Cal chemistry route. I thought it was a little weird that they went for a seeker first. I mean, it is a seeker chaser choice, so I don't know. Like, obviously, I don't know this player at all, so, like, I can't talk about him really. But I did think it was an interesting choice to choose a seeker first player when I would be, kind of doubting my ability to, or like at least like concerned about my ability to stay in to like worry about stitch on pitch. And I think Eric, it sounds like would have been a really good choice to like add to this lineup.
Yeah, Eric's definitely one of the players that when we play against him, when we play against Cal, he's one of the players that we're like, okay, keep an eye on this one, because like you're if you let him by you, he's gonna go score. Like it's definitely, he should have been on here. I agree 100%. Like
I do think some of these male snubs are due to a 12-person roster and having a 7 max for gender. I love that we're seeing more female names on this board and non-binary names on this board, but I don't know what we would be seeing if there wasn't a gender cap on this draft. And I'm happy that there is. But you also have to like reflect is like, are we missing a male quaffle player who objectively should be on this team over a female quaffle player because there's a quota? Or are we like, you always have to take those things into account. Like,
well, and I think even we talked a bit about Teal having 5 beaters. I think you could easily have replaced one of them with Eric and then gotten that like good balance of chaser to beater and had a steal as far as talent.
Agreed. Do any of you have other players that you think you would have expected to see on this board that didn't make it?
Yes, Taylor Groff.
Yeah. Amelia going before Taylor was definitely a surprise. Throwing it all and not Taylor, I was surprised about.
Well, and even, like, I get that Jenna has a ton of raw athleticism, but Taylor has the experience, and with Gray going for that smart team, I'm very surprised they didn't just steal Taylor, because Taylor's got, I mean, she's got the defense, she's got the offense, she's more balanced on both sides, and, like, she easily could have just been on there. It's rough to say instead of Jenna, but she could have been. She has more experience. She's really smart. Like I think that she would have been a good fit on that team that's going to be very pass heavy and like smart playing.
I want to briefly just talk about U of A because obviously there isn't a single U of A player on this board, and that doesn't surprise me because they have had a very rough, 3 years? I remember when I first joined as a freshman, they had lost a ton of players, and they lost players every year that I played against them. But they still have people who have been on their team for years, like Megan Baum, who is a really strong female chaser, also beat, and Brandon Mieha, I think I said that right, who is really a really good chaser. And I think that they definitely could have gone on to this board, but they just aren't playing on a strong team. And definitely, it's just a rough situation. I don't know where I would have put them on this board, but I think they definitely could have fit in and done well.
I also have U of A in my notes because, I mean, we have 2 SJSU on here, and yeah, they're not a well-known team, but they have those players that fit on this board, and I think U of A has some players. I think there was, I don't know his name, he had curly, dark hair, but he was on U of A, and he was a great beater. Like, I was thoroughly impressed, and maybe he's not at the level of the male beaters on this board, but I think that U of A is easily overlooked because they're so small, but they're toe-to-toe with SJSU at regionals. It was 70-70 with an SJSU catch. Like, it could have gone either way, and I agree. I think Arizona in general got overlooked a lot. We got a lot more NAU ASU the last 2 rounds because all the Cal players were gone. But I think Arizona as a state gets overlooked a lot. So I would have liked to see at least 1 U of A player on there instead of 0, because they do have talent on their team. They're just a struggling team like SJSU right now. Like, they're going through growing pains.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, Arizona and also Utah, some Utah players got picked when we started talking about them. So there's definitely something to be said just for that bias of players, that you're always playing with. Yeah, I don't know. Just one of those things, I guess, that happens.
Yeah.
But definitely something to think about.
There's one more NAU player. So another Arizona player that I would have liked to see on here. Jason Beller, I think, would have been a good asset. He can beat, he can chase, he's got aggression. He is smaller, so I get why he's not on here, but like, I think that he would have been a good pick for even just as a chaser, because he can do that as well. But it goes along with the territory of not knowing Arizona as well. So I get why he's not on here, but I would have liked to see him on here.
Look at this board of fully, like, let's go through and say, like, our personal picks as of right now.
Okay, I'll start.
Is it self-centered to say purple? No, but
Brooke's
really,
like, my team's gonna win.
Brooke's like, I am taking this team to the finals.
All me.
Even if I wasn't on this board, I would say purple has a ton of opportunity for flexibility, between like the big guy line, which I don't want to call it the himbo line, but I think it's funny to say. But also with some of the beaters on that line, I think they have a ton of opportunity for flexibility. And I think they definitely go toe and toe with blue team, which is my other top pick.
Yeah, I must say I'm still on the blue team hype train. I really like them. I am a little less hype because I'm missing a keeper to sub for Cam, but I still think that their chaser lineup is really strong. Their beaters are really strong. Red team, honestly, is a close second for me. I like that they have a Cal lineup of chemistry and a Arizona lineup of chemistry. I like red as a close second, but blue's got my heart still.
Yeah, I think blue is my favorite still. Like you said, not having a sub for Cameron is rough, but they still have a lot of experienced ball carriers. They have really good beaters. They have size on their chaser line. And then second for me would probably be gray team, just because like we talked about, that's a very smart team. Maybe not the most athletic team with all of their players, but if they can set the pace where they want it, if they can take control of the pitch, then that would be a very smart team.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had kind of blue team and gray team were kind of like neck and neck for me, and purple team and red team were kind of like right there. I think I'm giving the edge to blue team over gray team and purple team maybe over red team. Honestly, it's so hard. I'm kind of going off of beaters just because, like, I think, like, we've seen how well Kobe and Justin can just control a game. And, like, now being paired with these, like, superstar, like, keepers and, like, just athletes and, like, wing chasers and stuff like that they have on these lines, like, I think that they would be able to just do even more than we've already seen them do on their college. I do really like gray team. Gray team is honestly kind of a sleeper pick for me just because I think that gray team has the most I think that gray team has the highest ceiling, but I don't know if I think that they are going to be as consistent as what I think blue team could be. I don't know if that makes sense. Like I think gray team has a lot of potential, but like we've talked about, it does depend on how well all of those players can like keep their energy, if they can play the game that's the way that they like the speeds they need to play it at and stuff like that in order to be successful. But yeah, I think I am going to give it blue as my number one overall at the end.
I've also seen this board the same way that Erin does, as like I have blue and gray like at the top and red and purple at the top. And if I'm looking this, like if I'm like gonna look at this as a tournament perspective, and that the like it's gonna be like a round robin with like a finals into like a second and third place game, I think I would give it the gray over blue, just because in a 12-person roster with these people, gray is going to play there all day, is going to be playing slower. And I think if it's blue and gray in a finals game, blue is going to have played all of their games like pedal to the metal, like as smart and as fast as they can be, and gray is going to have a little bit more conservative energy just because I think they're going to play a much slower game. And I think that if you're like looking at like a finals after a full day tournament, like gray may have the edge just because of that their strategy is going to be slower than blues, and I think that may save them. First game of the day, if it's gray versus blue, I think blue may have the edge. But if we're gonna be like going through like a finals tournament, by like the end of the day, I think gray may have an edge over blue, and I think vice versa, and for the exact same reason, I would put red over purple, because I think red is going to be playing slower than purple. And if that's a logic that I need to provide, like an end of day, who's going to win this tournament, we're talking head to head beginning of the day, I think purple's aggression could beat red, and I think the blue's aggression could beat gray. So it depends on like how we're like going to see this as like a head to head, like who's gonna win, or if we're talking like I played 6 games of Quidditch in one day and who has the energy and capability and like the stamina to get to that end. I think I would lean more gray and red as like my like first and like third over second and fourth. But I think any of these teams could insanely prove all of us wrong. I think that like we could see some insane come-ups from like some sleeper picks that none of us saw coming. I think teal could, like, none of us picked teal as a favorite, but I genuinely think that we could watch teal take on any of these teams and be like, damn, like Anthony Tucker is as good as Brooke said and really fucking stepped up, and like they went like Anthony and Philip went like toe to toe with like Justin and Timothy. Like I don't know what could happen if this happened, but based on my knowledge, that's how I feel. But I do think that we have a lot of like evenly balanced things in this real tournament. I think should happen one day, because I really badly want to see it more than like anything.
Can we please make this happen?
like regionals next year, let's just like cut day 2 and just make sure everyone can get there and just do this instead. I would like that a lot, because
all your graduates from this year that are on here will just have to come back and be like, college.
They probably would. Like everyone loves Quidditch, right? They have nothing better to do with their entire lives or money than to go play Quidditch in a fantasy tournament. So if you are on this team, let's make it happen. I think it's going to be really hard to pick a favorite. Like we are going to do the GMs are going to get a chance to personally defend their team anonymously and provide some sort of paragraph that will go up on social media over probably this upcoming week to either agree with us or disagree with us and say like what we haven't said, which I hope will be helpful for like the voters. And then there's going to be a vote for the public and some sort of panel of like experts. I don't know what that panel of experts is gonna look like, but that's how this is gonna be decided of who's the best. So keep an eye out for all of that. Do you have any closing thoughts?
I really hope that this experts thing actually has like a schedule that they have to look at and be like, who's gonna win based on time of day, because I wasn't even thinking about that before. Now it was just kind of like a head-to-head based on like the players all playing game 1, but that's not how tournaments work. So I really hope that these experts have to look at it in like a game day format and like look at the head-to-heads and who's gonna get tired, etc., because that honestly can change it a lot versus just like, I like this team the most, right? Like I'm curious how
if they're gonna look at who's getting tired first, they also need to look at who's gonna get injured, and they need to tell us all of those choices as well.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
How many players does Gray team have at the end of the day?
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, okay, if we're gonna get that specific, we might as well get full nerdy on this and get like probability of injuries.
Can we get just like full-on statistical analysis in here to give these experts stats for what's gonna happen each game, and then they can decide who's gonna win? Because just looking at it is completely different.
I'm just imagining like someone full on making stats and being like, okay, let's go D&D on this. Roll a D20 to see who gets in, see if you get injured.
Oh, I've got my dice right here. I'm ready.
I've got mine too.
Here we go.
The huge teal come up is like each team loses one beater, including teal, but teal still has all 4. Like that team. Like if every one of these teams loses a beater to an injury and teal has an extra, they have.
They got it.
Yeah, like that's a huge,
all teal have to do
that's why
is
they
stay in the day.
So
they've got the beaters, they've got a seeker. They're set.
okay. I'm
Right,
glad.
I'm ready to roll.
I was gonna say, I hope that there's at least honestly a tournament order for the experts to look at, because that really should impact their decisions.
I do think I think a head-to-head is a lot different than looking at a tournament winner.
Yes.
And so I hope people that are watching, that are watching this, however long that this video is, they're still tuning in to like think of it that way also, because if this was a real tournament and a real like what this is all about is like pretending like who would you pick for this like all-star college tournament, like who's going to succeed all day. And I think like Purple is like a really strong team here, but if they're gonna run the way that we think they're gonna run, game 3 or 4 is gonna come around and they're gonna be like, holy shit, I can't do this anymore, and they're going to start that it's gonna be really bad. But they could probably take a lot of these teams on a 1v1, and that's the whole game. Like I could see them pulling out a win on any of these teams, realistically.
And I do think that game order is going to matter a lot. Like if Purple team plays slower Gray team first, like that could be really good for Purple. Or if they get Gray last, like that could be really good for Gray. So I'm really hoping for a schedule. Please have there be a schedule be released before the experts.
Okay, Ryan.
Analysis.
Okay.
Lindsay's gonna cut all of this and just send it to Fenning. Be like, okay, this is the part that we recorded for you.
Yeah, this is your job now. Oh, he loves when I tell him what to do. Okay, anyway, all right, I think we are all wrapped up here. Please keep an eye out for the post coming your way. It's going to include some information about starting lines, and the GMs will have a chance to say what they want to say, as I mentioned before. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined us, including Catherine and Kreger, who has joined us on different episodes before. This has been a lot of fun. We talked about doing another one with a club college mix, which I think will be really interesting to see. I'm hoping that happens, and if so, we will be back again talking about more Quidditch for multiple hours, and you get to watch for multiple hours. So get excited about that. But yeah, if you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. And like I said last time, let's talk about it. Please drop your thoughts. Who do you want to see win? Like who's your favorite? Who got snubbed? Let's talk about it, please. Neat. All right. I think we're thanks and bye.